I had had enough.
Well, you drove out there into the middle of nowhere and had some sort of loud verbal display challenging ET in general out in the middle of nowhere?
That's what I was doing. I actually had a pistol in my hand at the time. I was really ticked off. When I was having this fit, I was waving the gun in the air, okay, and I had this fit. And at this moment, I said, okay.
He was a Louisiana man named Montaldo. Folks around called him Six Gun Joe. Worked with ICAR, don't you know? Investigating UFOs. Out for a drive with a gal one night, they stopped to check out the reporting site. When an alien lit right there on the ground, he commenced to throwing his weight around. Now, old Six Gun didn't take too kindly to that kind of thing, especially without Vaseline or anything like that, you know. Seriously. Well, Six Gun looked that critter right in the eye and said, any last wish before you die?
Hey, Jay, can you hear me?
Reached for his gun, quick as a twitch, and said, fill your claw, you son of a bitch. Now,
I can hear you.
Spread across
what the hell is this?
I was when I came in here, I was using the flip side, setting it up for after this, because I have to host it. Joe's not on tonight.
You don't get
and I said this is our intro, because we do promos first. I don't know why it's not here.
I didn't shut it off. It's playing? Like a commercial?
For 2 minutes, yeah. It's almost over. 20 seconds. 20 seconds. Wow. Glitch here in StreamYard. If you set something up in another studio, it defaults to whatever studio is next that it starts in the show.
What the? I've never heard that in my life. So, I mean, I didn't know. Did you set it up to play?
There are video clips you can set as like your intro and your outro.
You set that up to play, or did someone else?
The other show that I'm on after this at 10 o'clock. But it, for whatever reason, it also defaults on.
Sorry about that, whatever the hell that was.
No, I'm glad it's not just us. I feel like every Wednesday we have some sort of issue.
That's 100%. That was
I've
me.
never had that happen before. Like, I don't know. I know Mercury Retrograde is beating the living hell out of me for the last few weeks.
It's an even specialer show now.
I know, right? That was like
we promoted the show that's coming up afterwards. So
I know that was like a Deliverance commercial. I don't know what that was, but
hey, at least you'll get it. You'll be in good with Joe when he comes back from Los Angeles.
Good. I just didn't know it was going to happen. So
I didn't either. As I said, right. I have 2 StreamYard windows up, and I was setting up the other studio like 20 minutes ago.
Living in a Trumple Gooch world. Yeah.
Aren't you excited?
It's like a whole what's the Amazon Nazi movie that's the show from Philip K. Dick?
I don't know.
I always forget the name of it. Like it's a show on Amazon where the Nazis won and they they won, and it's a Philip K. Dick like sci-fi whole weird thing. I always look it up and forget the name. I need to watch it one year. But anyway, let's not get on that road. But
that was a great series.
What was it called again? Do you remember? I always look it up and forget.
I gotta look it up, but man, that show I thought was gonna suck, and it's great. It was great.
That's The Man in the High Castle. Okay. Well, I have a group on Facebook called Fuhrer Shitbird von Trumpelgooch if anyone wants to join it, and that's all I'm gonna say. But anyway, glad to have everybody here. I keep remembering Jibby Blue avoiding my political question last week. I didn't blame him, but great guest. But good to have Mark here. Good to have the guest here. Good to have Jay here. It's been a crazy month. My mom had to go to the hospital and had some bad heart stuff. My dog Goldie dropped dead. There was something else. The same night my mom went to the hospital, my nephew almost choked on a corn dog and had to go get put under to get it removed from his throat the same day she left for an ambulance to the hospital.
Oh my
and
God.
that was as Mercury retrograde slid in. And things are usually so quiet it's boring. So that I'm ready for Mercury retrograde. I'm not someone that tries to go on and on about it, but it seemed crazy. But anyway, great to have y'all here. You're listening to United Public Radio, 107.7 FM, New Orleans. And how's it going? Kristi and Jared and Mark, the Mayan pyramids. First off, a weird story that I have, and we can start talking about it. I mean, I know a little bit about the Mayans, but I know you guys know a lot more than I do, and I know Mark certainly does, and Jay does. But one of my experiences a long time ago, in my party days, what I call my golden oldie days. Now I'm 50. Those days are, sometimes they knock on my door, but not like
50,
then.
Just a baby still. I got 8 years on you, bud.
It's a Capricorn pan.
9 years on you now.
A Capricorn pan baby. But yes, it doesn't feel like a baby. It feels like the mummy. But anyway, it was Halloween night. I had been partying. We don't have to get into the specifics of that. I never did drugs until my dad died. I did some drugs. Now I just do weed, so we're doing pretty damn good, I think. But anyway, that night is on Halloween night. There was a guy there with us who acted possessed, who was also using, I don't know, diet pills or something. And he tried to drive us into a lake with his truck. And my brother saw red eyes in the forest. And that night, I saw some beings that were like holograms, kind of like you would read in shamanism and stuff like that, the way I've seen it when they talk about ayahuasca and things like that. But the beings were very like a hologram, but very reptilian, serpentine-like. And the closest thing that I've seen to that gives me the creeps, I have these Mayan oracle cards. They're like wood glyphs, and it's like an oracle, kind of like a tarot or something that's based on the whole Mayan system. But they have pictures of their gods on those cards, like carved. And some of those things that I saw look like those freaking things, like the same weird, like kind of headdress weirdness, and just very bizarre. But being from Georgia, my first initial thought was, oh my God, it's the devil. These are fallen angels. This is some Faustian LSD kind of shit going on tonight. And I'm going to hell. But anyway, the things communicated, I love you, sing, dance, write. And they kept, it was like Deepak Chopra talking to you through a snake being. And they were not physical like us. They looked like they were almost like a hologram. And one was very humanoid and reptilian and had weird hair. I wouldn't say Medusa, but that kind of crossed my mind, like weird. I don't know. I don't think its hair was snakes. Hopefully not. That would be really weird. But there was also something there that kind of looked like a hydra, like from Greek mythology. I don't know if that was his pet or its boyfriend or what it was, but I'll never forget it. And the closest I've seen it portrayed is Mayan gods. And I don't know if that's what they were. I have no idea, but I know I'll never forget seeing it ever. That's for sure. I even get goosebumps just talking about it right now. It's like they know you're just talking about them. But good to have you here. And who wants to start about what you guys do? Let our audience know.
Well, I just want to kind of ask a question about what you just said. When you said that you feel like they know that we're talking about them, when you get the chill bumps and you have that feeling of like knowing, that's kind of what it feels like, I think. And I think when people have spiritual experiences, which I think maybe that's kind of what you had, like, yeah. I think that's a common symptom of spiritual experiences is the chill bumps and that feeling of knowing.
Yeah. And another one of my big experiences I've seen beings of light. A lot of times after my dad died, I saw 2 leave my house as if they were in it and flew into the heavens. And at that time I was completely sober, nicotine, no booze, no anything at all. And just 2 people made of light. And I have the same experience with the goosebumps and stuff when I talk about that one. But I think that may have been deceased loved ones, but I don't know. I'm not sure completely. But
that's becoming a more popular topic to discuss.
Mm-hmm. And maybe they're all part of the collective, like maybe they're part of the collective consciousness that we strive to be a part of and expand, maybe that's why we can feel physical sensations when we think about them or think about experiences that we've had, because maybe they're part of a collective that we're kind of tipping our toes in.
Well, it's interesting you say collective because one of the groups of species of aliens, the Greys particularly, it is said that they have a type of hive mentality, hive mind thinking, like because of their telepathy, they share thoughts and information. You know, like when you want to share something with somebody, you have to actually physically speak. You didn't just, you don't just think it and they pick it up. With their society, they don't stop the thought. So it's always going, they're always transmitting, always receiving thoughts. So like a hive mind, I don't even know if we can imagine it being, individual minded as we are, but that's what they say they are. The Greys have a hive mind. They all share their most inner secret thoughts all the time.
God, I'm really glad right now we don't experience that, because I feel like that would be intrusive and people don't want to know what's happening in here.
Well, I mean, if you superimpose that power on us in our society, there's things you don't want people to be able to pick out of your brain, like your bank account number, your address, what kind of keys,
security code to your house.
Yeah, the security code to your house, all that stuff. Yeah, no one else needs to know that.
Well, the being of light thing ties into, Christly bodies of light. I've seen weird stories about monks who left their bodies behind and they did weird stuff when they died and supposedly went through some kind of initiation to become these beings of light. But the biggest reference I always use is Ron Howard's Cocoon 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Steve Gutenberg. Okay. That's it. That's opium on shrooms, probably, at least. But those movies are really hard to find now. You have to pay a lot for them for DVD. They never. I don't even think they made it to Blu-ray. But those are weird movies about light beings that are really weird. And it's like, did he trip to make that movie, or maybe not? Maybe.
They're dumbed down a bit. The light beings that if they actually exist, from what we've been told, or what abductees and contactees have heard, is that they are so uber powerful that if they were to try to take over one of our bodies with their light being cells, it would destroy us. So they're kind of, if anything is godlike in our definition of God, it would be that type of being, because they, like Jeff said, they just passed right through his house like it wasn't even there. And it's said that's how they travel through the universe and the galaxy. They will their way, and they go in that direction towards that planet, and there they are.
Well, one thing I want to say, and then I wanted to hear an intro from you guys. It's Zach Berry, a shaman from Israel, said that the dead can travel in spears of light to me. And I had another guy, Don Oscar, that said that down in Peru, I think, that they have like festivals and ceremonies and watch these light beings in the sky, like doing stuff. And he has video of it. And he's like Don Oscar, like I always have trouble saying his name. It starts with a Q, but Don Oscar Q Quasim. I can't say it. We have he's been on the show, but that's weird. And I don't know if they're all down there tripping, but to me, that just opens doorways and ain't that big of a deal anyway. But that's pretty interesting that's what the whole festival is. And they're just sitting around watching these things fly around. But yeah, Jared or Kristi, tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Sure. Kristi, you want to start or me?
Go ahead.
Okay. So, what do you want to know? Just a general background, or ArchaeoX, or a little bit all of it?
Started into this kind of paranormal existence.
Just a little bit of everything for our audience. And
okay. The little bit was I grew up with a really smart dad who only watched Channel 2 PBS. So then it's like I'm either watching about sea turtles trying to find the ocean, or I'm watching about Egypt, and Zahi Hawass was the coolest guy until it turns out he's Darth Vader. I mean, I don't know. And then, but I didn't know that. I was like, Zahi Hawass, yeah. And then, you have all these questions going to a lot of museums and things. And so I've always been very curious. And one day I thought I'd write a book called It's Not Aliens, Worse It's Us, Discovering Our Lost History, which was to try to surmise. Oh,
thank you, Mark.
Has the book. Thank you, Mark. There we go. Mark's got the book there. And the thing wasn't to conclude anything, but to pull together like these light beams, or to pull together UFO, or to like, it's not that there's not aliens, but it appears that there's epochs of human civilization that could go back millions of years. And also we have these abilities that I think are biotechnologies. And I try to put it all together as kind of a blueprint for how we could maybe deconstruct, which led to a company called ArchaeoX, which Kristi and I are co-founders of. And the idea that we could go in the field, including Mayan and dynastic ruins like Egyptians or Phoenicians, or, just think anything we've ever heard of in the last 10,000 years. Like, we can dig some of these things up. But while we do that, we could create a company that would experiment and work to try to reveal what is our true past, while working on what are our practical things like humanitarian work and biohacking and living a more conscious life. I don't know, Kristi, what else? What that pretty much, that's my start. What is that? Your turn.
That's good. Thank you.
So I guess for me, what are we digging into? How I got here?
No, yeah, just a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I was not raised in church, which I'm grateful for, and I ended up marrying into a somewhat, I would say, Baptist, religious, whatever family, and that's kind of how I found religion. And after, I don't know, a decade of serving in the church and doing all the things, we started doing mission work. And mission work kind of led me to asking bigger questions. It just didn't resonate. Some of the things just didn't resonate. So I started digging and doing a little more research, and really just paying attention to myself and kind of, what my instincts were telling me. And I've followed that. And I ended up going to Ecuador in 23 and to an ayahuasca retreat. And so that, I started awakening. I guess my awakening started in 2015, around 2013, 2014. And then it kind of regressed for a little while. There was a few years in there that just kind of life sucked me back in. And then in 23, I went to the retreat and it slammed my brain wide open. And like you said, Jeff, you were talking about it being like a portal or a gateway or whatever. I agree that I think that's what ayahuasca does. And then, I had a UFO experience when I was 17, 18, something like that. And where I saw a craft, which was, you can't, once you see something like that, it's like we were talking about pre-show, Jay, when you see something like that, it's kind of, it sticks with you.
You can't unsee it. Yeah.
You can't unsee it and you can't unknow it. And then it just leads to further questioning, And so before I ever even stuck my feet in a church, I had already had that experience. And so I think that maybe I had to ask bigger questions, that I couldn't just take what the Bible said and or what, the preacher was saying on Sundays as, the ultimate truth, because I had experienced something outside of that. And then I worked for a LiDAR company. And Tom, one of our co-founders, reached out for us to come fly LiDAR in Belize. And that's how we ended up connecting. And then it was, history from there.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So
Very interesting.
Kristi, since we were just talking about Jeffrey was thinking the spheres were loved ones. Did you see Jared as a sphere, and then like he transmorphed back into the real Jared?
No, I've always just seen him as a normal human. I think maybe some people don't, but actually we spoke with Barbara. Mark, do you remember when we interviewed Barbara? Whoa, there's Jared. There, he was a light being.
Hey.
Mark, do you remember Barbara said that he wasn't human anymore, that after he died and came back, that he was no longer human. I'm not sure what that makes him, but not human.
We're only a quarter of the way through this show. It's hard to tell how you're going to end up after being a guest on Ye Old Church of Mabus.
Well, definitely a journey.
It's been, well, for me, a 10-year journey, but the show itself has been 14, 15 years going now. Yeah.
Basically,
Wow.
That's great.
It's a
I
good,
mean,
it's
it's
a good
been,
run.
I think it's longer than that. I
it?
swear, I think it's like 17 or 18. I lost
Yeah, there we
count.
go.
It started with me and Jeremy Vianney doing these little bitty chat interviews that had no audio, and we did it in a chat room. And Stanton Friedman was there, and I had
Instant
to stay on
messenger
the,
style.
I had to stay on the phone with him, and he typed, and it was weird, but it was cool because it was kind of like old school. And it
Yeah.
got kind of popular and then turned into this and everything. But I've been keeping up with that Ancient Apocalypse show, and it seems like they seem to be alluding to a super civilization that kind of, that's been covered up and, that's kind of responsible for a lot of different things. And of course, they got the Keanu on there to just put his hammer down on second season. But I don't know if you've seen the Graham Hancock Ancient Apocalypse show, but it's pretty interesting. Is that kind of what you're alluding to, a super civilization?
Yes, but yes, that's what I'll say. Yes. That's it's all in the ground. It's all there. The facts are all there. And if we don't cherry pick all of them,
yeah, the evidence is right there.
Jay, the evidence is that there's at least one global advanced human civilization. And based on the fact that you have Michael Cremo quietly, gently speaking out about the tens of millions of years of human artifacts and bones and existence found, it's not about the pre-Sumerian culture of 200,000 years ago for the Sumerian, pre-Diluvian kings list of 260,000 years. It's about the fact that there are millions of years of actual human history, which really blows everybody out of like what their comfort zone is for talking about not only prehistory and the ancient megalithic past and the ancient human advanced society, but then people get hung up on the stories, the contemporary stories. So I'm a real buzzkill at parties. Let's go, Jay.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you 100% on all of that. The thing that strikes me, the evidence is there's so much of it. It's on every continent, and probably there's a lot of it also underneath the ice on Antarctica.
Mm-hmm.
There's a hammer inside of millions of years old stone with petrified wood handle. We weren't, according to our history, we weren't around 400 million years ago, or however old that stone is. They aged with that hammer. You've got these destroyed buildings in Bolivia, the end of Peru, central southern South America, with precision drill holes in it, precision lines, angles on it that with the hardness of the rock, andesite in that area. It's, I believe, on the hardness of 9 on the hardness scale, and diamond is 10. And they attribute the creation of these destroyed buildings, to a civilization that not only didn't have math, they didn't have a written language that the natives.
Well,
what is it? I can't remember the name of it, but it's on top of Peru, bottom of Bolivia.
Are you talking about Lake Titicaca?
Lake Titicaca, yes, sir. Yep, absolutely.
That lake is the one, Jared. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that is the lake that has seahorses in it at the top of the mountain.
Yes, it's salt water, and it's salt water.
No, it's not.
With seahorses.
It's fresh water. It's the highest freshwater and largest freshwater lake on the planet, I do believe.
With
Are you sure it's not salt water? I think it's salt water.
Hey, Google, is Lake Titicaca
can you say the name of the lake one more time?
Titicaca, baby.
I know. I was like, what did he say?
Freshwater lake in South.
All right.
It is fresh water,
but it has seahorses in it.
Yes, freshwater seahorses.
What the?
Is that a thing?
Say that again.
Is that a thing? Freshwater seahorses?
I don't understand.
They're there in Lake Titicaca.
I have no idea.
I didn't either, but I feel like maybe that's like,
if they're there, then they're freshwater seahorses. That's
yeah, but
I didn't know that they were there.
Sharks are like freshwater shark. Well, not freshwater, but some of them can live in both. Kind of like
there are transition spots called brackish water, like where freshwater rivers meet the sea. And some seawater creatures can survive there for
Jay, I'm
time.
going to interrupt. Here's why. Great Google AI's answer was that it is the exact word is brackish. It has a salinity of around 5.5 per parts per 1,000. So it's classified as fresh water, but its water has a measurable though low salt and salinity with 5.2 to 5.5 per 1,000. So you got to think that maybe it was mass flood related and that maybe the salt dissipated.
Well, something destroyed that building, and something deposited ocean life, like fossilized sea life. There's the beachheads around Lake Titicaca are microfossils of seashells, not freshwater shells, but seashells. So how long? They got up there somehow, and it had to be in a big. I mean, it could be the flood, like you said. Something came in and destroyed that building, and if it was the seas of this planet, that would explain why there's microfossil seashells all over the beach.
Well, all I was going to add is how long would it take for the salinity to go down from saltwater from the ocean? How long would it?
Yeah, an oceanographer would know that. That's a tough question.
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, it would take a long time, I would think. I don't, it's the largest lake in the continent and the largest freshwater lake, I think, on the whole planet.
It's at 13. It's at 13,000 feet, I think, give or take. Lake Titicaca,
13,000 plus. Yeah, it's above the tree line. The tree line stops at like 11,000, 12,000 feet.
38,000, 12,000 feet, 3,800 meters, 12,000 feet, 12.5.
There's no way that these cultures and societies that we're relying on now made some of these advanced ruins. They took them over and underwater. Kristi and I just interviewed the actual finder of the sunken city off of Cuba, Paul Weinswig. No one's interviewed him in forever. We actually just interviewed him. When was that, Kristi?
February 11th, but we just released it Wednesday.
Massive, cool.
Yeah.
And just to follow up with Kristi's comment about freshwater sharks, you get the is it getting too?
Yeah, you're
we won't be able to read it.
You have to put it right in front of you, or your background fuzzy, or we'll make it fuzzy.
What are we looking at?
In Linton, Ohio.
Can't read it, Mark. You'll have to read it off.
Okay. You can Google the diamond coal mine along the Ohio River. There were found teeth of the xenocanth sharks from 200 million years ago.
Wow. 200 million years ago. That's almost
sharks.
I know that time is an illusion and doesn't actually exist, but to think about that long ago.
We talk about the universe and the galaxy all the time on this show and on other shows, but unfortunately our brains just, those kinds of numbers can't really comprehend it. I mean, the size of the universe we can imagine, but our brain just cannot comprehend the vastness. I mean, the math that's out there is just so huge. So I mean, and that's why I enjoy this subject, is it really is so mind-boggling. And some of the evidence, like we were saying about the buildings all over the planet, is evidence of an advanced civilization. And everyone says, "Oh, it has to be aliens." Why does it have to be aliens? Giorgio Tsoukalos goes out in the desert, picks up a rock with a design on it, says an alien did this. Bullshit. Pardon my French. But it can't. Not everything on this planet is made by aliens. Now, there are two cities in the Middle East area, Ur and is it Ashurbanipal? I can't remember the other one's name, but they were the two cities that the Anunnaki allegedly built when they created us as a species. So, okay, that's one alien building. But you got the pyramids of Giza, you got the pyramids in South America, Central America, pyramids in North America, pyramids in Europe. Probably there's one underneath the ice. It could be a natural formation, but it's covered in ice on Antarctica. Somebody built all of that And I don't think it was just one alien species came here and colonized. I think they came here and accidentally killed everybody that was here, and now they're trying to fix their problem. But there was a human species that built pyramids on all of the planet. And then something happened and it froze up.
Well, that, or if we have hundreds of millions of years of human history, which the Hindu Vedic religious and writings are talking about, the in quotes gods, but they're talking millions, tens of millions of years, hundreds of millions of years. So there's this genetic memory, there's a collective human consciousness that's less conscious now, but the reality is that there is a human history, and until you and I grew up with In Search Of and Leonard Nimoy, and the only explanation for anything more advanced in the past is aliens, because the conception that we are actually fallen, the idea that the whole actual realization or acceptance that we are actually not as advanced as we once were is unacceptable. It also conflicts with religious institutions of every kind, every single government that is paired and married to every other religious institution, collegiate information. The reality is that there is a system in place that on the most hubristic level do not want interference. And it's much easier to say aliens did it than it is to say, shit, we screwed up.
Yeah.
Or, it's easier to say the Anunnaki. And again, this is I'm going to shorten, Kristi, for the first time, my biggest gripe with the Anunnaki. Are you ready?
Here we go.
She's ready for this one to be a long one, but I'm learning. Kristi has refined my ability to stab people in the face quicker and more efficiently and deeper and, quite frankly,
it's
bloodier.
like, let's just get in and get out. We don't have to make it bloody.
Yeah. So you know what? So here's what it is. If you are a space traveling, quantum universe understanding alien species that can travel faster than the speed of light, you control the things that we're learning, spintronics, quantum computing. We're learning this. But if you can travel through the universe and you can create biotechnology and species and you name it, because you can control the atom. We now, since 2007, have had nano machines that are 87 to 50 atoms in size. So do we have nanoarchaeology? No, we do not. Should we? Yes, because is a lot of the solid state drives and the nanotechnology of the ancient past much more advanced, and we're looking at rocks and we're dealing with like heavy stones, but we're not really catching what is actually possibly nanotechnology. Yeah, we're missing it. However,
there was I just want to catch you real quick before we forget. There was a quick blurb, and I don't remember where it was, but I think it's in Russia where they found some nanotechnology.
Ural Mountains.
Yeah, that would be Russia. I'd been on Ancient Aliens, and it was on the other night on a repeat that I watched. So yeah, that's a great pull. So they found these microscopic pieces of metal that are without question man-made, that are in soil millions of years old. It wasn't us that did it.
Nope. Or it could have been, but that technology is gone, right? So all I'm saying is that if you're a space traveling alien race and you control quantum mechanics, do you need human slaves to dig up gold when you can take atoms and put them together and make all the gold you want? You don't need humans. But if you're a human,
here's a good postulation we made on another show. We just recently found there's an asteroid in the asteroid belt, which would have been the fifth planet that is destroyed, pulverized. The asteroid is comprised of like 90% gold, and the rest of it's like antimony and platinum, and a few other base elements. But for the most part, it's a giant ball of gold. And if they were space traveling species with the same, like you're saying, quantum type technology, why don't they just pull up next to that and suck it up into their ship?
Yeah. But that's assuming that you want to travel across the galaxy and universe to get gold, which makes zero sense. If you could take one atom and another atom and make all the gold you want anywhere you want, you don't need to go dig up gold, let alone make monkeys into humans to dig up gold. But you do if you're kind of an idiot human that's in sleep mode and safe mode.
Not to bash poor Mr. Sitchin, but that was his whole postulation was that they came here to mine the gold to repair their atmosphere. If they're traveling through space, they can fix their atmosphere already.
I think there may
Well,
be
yeah,
some. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say I think there may be some truth to the Anunnaki stuff, but the way people just kind of go to it for everything, I could see how that's annoying. But there's also things about in the UFO field that I find really annoying as well. Is there's a lot of exopolitics stuff that is very. I'm not going to say it all is, but some of those people should be writing erotic alien Amazon porn on Amazon books like Come for Bigfoot and stuff. but anyway, and I'm someone that's seen weird UFOs and beings, and then some of that stuff. I'm not gonna say all of it. I don't want to judge all of it, but a lot of it, it's like they go to these stories and there's not really much evidence of it. I mean, there may be something, but it's like a go-to. And I mean, like I don't know for sure, but that Michael Salla guy, he has some good guests on, but I don't really listen to him a lot. But I've seen this one guy on JP that claims he's like some kind of mercenary that came down to Florida and met with the ant people, and they gave him a special tree and the ant people, and he's like in the mercenary ops for the military, black ops, and this dude's on there and he's like dead serious. And maybe it is true, but part of me is like, oh, what is this? Is he a spook? But and that's kind of like, I mean, I think there's something to the Anunnaki thing, but it's also like, I guess it kind of sits on the fringes of exopolitics, which kind of bothers me.
Jay,
And that's the problem.
Jeff, have you? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go for it. Nope.
Jeff, have you watched anything that Matthias DeStefano's put out?
No, I haven't, but I'll check it out.
So he's got a documentary, and I cannot think of the name of it right now, but he talks about how he that there are 9 dimensions. He describes the 4 main alien races, and he talks about how he when he was like 13 or 15 or something like that, he started waking up to or remembering his past lives. That's what he started remembering, his past lives. And he describes these people in all these different races and experiences on other planets. And I don't know. He talks about the Anunnaki. He talks about all kinds of things. And some of the things he says resonate, and some of them I'm like,
Yeah, that's a lot of the exopolitics stuff. It's
Yeah.
like, I bet these people would be great to play Dungeons and Dragons with, right, Jay? I'm not going to dismiss all of it. I'm not going to dismiss all of it, but some of it gets a little kooky.
So much of this information is being, compartmentalized and hidden from us that it's, we can gather clues and glimmers here and there, and then try to put it together. And some of us get pretty close, and some of us get not so close. So
and how do you argue? Like, how do you argue with somebody who has these supernatural experiences? It's like, I don't know how you argue with that. I was watching just the other day, I was watching an episode on ancient civilizations, and one of the psychics on there, Sophia something, was talking about all of these experiences that she's had, where she's been basically astral projected into another dimension or time and space, and has had all of these conversations and interactions with these other beings who have shared all of this special information with her. And great.
Yeah, you can't argue with that.
Yeah.
You can't argue with anyone. It's the Holy Spirit. You can't argue with people who have faith.
Yeah, because like argue. Jared, we've talked about, like it's you, when you argue with somebody like that, you get one of 2 answers. What were they? We decided it is, well, you just once you get somebody down to where they can't answer your questions anymore, they don't have any argument. It's, well, you just have to have faith. Or Jared's favorite, you were sent here to test us
by the devil.
By the devil. Satan sent you here to test us.
I've had Neil Donald Walsh Conversations with God on twice. I'm surprised he came on. I loved it. I love those books, and that kind of sits on the borderline of everything. Is it true? But there's something to them, because when I read them, I feel something.
Right.
Usually probably stone too when I read them, but they've helped me a lot. But he's been on twice, and it's one of those guests where you're all nervous because you read all his books. Oh, the first time he came on, we for some reason we couldn't get on to his number on Skype, and it wouldn't let us through. So I had to call him at his house, and it was very awkward. He goes, "Jeffrey, you're 10 minutes late," and I'm never late. I'm usually never late ever. going to be late for my own funeral. But he luckily let us use his house number. But isn't it great, some of those guests that come on like that? I mean, is there some big ones that y'all can share at some point, or continue what you're saying, but some guests that have influenced you? That's always, like, I've had Joe R. Lansdale on, an author that writes a lot of stuff. That was one of the ones. Great. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I think, yeah, down dog. The answer is, I don't know. I think I'm not going to speak for Kristi, but I've read Forbidden Archaeology, and I'm a huge fan of Michael Crimo's, and we got to interview him for like 5 hours, Kristi and I. But Michael Crimo, not only have I read Forbidden Archaeology, but I got to, for the first time, it's one thing to, you sometimes you don't want to meet people who you're like really impressed by. Michael Crimo and I got to speak together at the American Preservation Society conference for 2024 last year with our other partner, Tom Elmore. Tom Elmore and I did a presentation, and I got to have a booth. We, ArchaeoX, got to have a booth next to Michael Crimo, and I got to see him in person for the first time. And then I got to follow up that interview meeting with him. We got to do our interviews, but then I also got to go meet him in LA, where he lives. And so I'm going to geek out about Michael, and I'll shut up. But Kristi, your thoughts?
That's good, though.
Did I lose you? Kristi, you're on silent.
I know. She's talking to her plant.
My bad. I was just going to point out, I have his book right here. It's really big. It's very dense. Very dense. It's a lot to cover. So, we've been super busy with ArchaeoX and all the things. So it's been a minute since I've opened it. I think I'm on page 2. So
that's good. That's important.
I know. I need to get in it. I need to. I'm further than page 2, but compared to the size of it and the information in it, I feel like I'm only on page 2, maybe -2. I don't know. But I'm super pumped to get in it and read it. I know a lot that's in it, but I just haven't sat down and read it. But yeah, so the interview was amazing. And it's just to talk to a mind like that and interview a mind like that is, for me, really special.
Yeah. And Paul was cool, though, wasn't it?
Yes.
I mean, like, here's the thing.
Gosh.
It's like, why are we not talking about Paul, right?
Paul was amazing. His story was, I mean, there was so much happening from the beginning to the end. It was like listening to a movie. He was just all of that. There was so much drama.
Paul Weinswig, we're talking about the discoverer. He and his wife discovered the sunken city off of Cuba.
Yeah.
But this man's background as an author, a professor, a philosopher, he made some, I'm not going to say I'm slightly played. Besides him being really interesting, he had some great stuff to say about Kristi and I. So do I like him? A lot. A lot. He made some great observations about partnerships. And it's like, I love you, Paul. We're going to hang out more.
That's cool. Those are the best. I'm remembering I had Peter Levinda on, and he said that sometimes we talk to the guest about my stupid usage of the word Mabus and like slapping church on it and just being stupid, which is pretty much what I did to piss people off when I first did this. And it's kind of like Bruce Campbell with the Necronomicon with the word Mabus, pretty much. But anyway, he said he goes, you kind of took control of that word and made it a thought form that eats you and drains you after every episode. I was like, well, that's nice.
Nice.
That's like Peter Levinda, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't know, Mark, come on. You've interviewed a ton of people. Do you have a favorite? Don't say me or Kristi. I know it's someone else.
Well, I have nothing to say then. You just took away my only
It's not
answer.
us. No, Mark, who's your favorite, really?
Or just some of your best ones, or I don't know.
One of the ones that I set up, and I did a lot of prep for the show, but I wasn't the host. It was with Buddy Cage from the New Riders of the Purple Sage. And it really meant a lot to me to listen to him and coach me on how to make a successful show, such as, and he got ideas by attending the filming that Martin Scorsese did of a concert, and it was not The Last Waltz. It was a lot more recent bands, but but Buddy attended it, and he was, the cameras were strategically placed throughout the concert. He was given an example of where Martin, wanted that shot from during, the guitarist's lead for, like the most popular song, or the being prepared for when the drum solo starts. He was working on the background, telling me about some of the background he wanted to cover, like the Canadian Express movie, where you could see he was playing pedal steel, and Jerry Garcia came up on stage and played with the band. And he'd give some, gave me some anecdotes about at this moment when Jerry appeared, he really wasn't plugged in. You can not hear what he's playing until 20 seconds in, they finally found the right amp to plug in his cord. So he was giving me examples of what he had seen and what he was wanting, and that's why show up prepared for shows, have some ideas ready to go, and keep it moving forward without stopping every couple minutes and say, "What's your website again?"
Yeah.
It's not very good. But that so that was one, working with one guest that probably meant the most to me, and the stories that he told me about recording with Bob Dylan.
Interesting.
He was on the Buddy appears on the Blood on the Tracks CD.
I have a quick trivia question for you, Mark. Where did Jerry Garcia learn to play the pedal steel guitar? Or rather, who showed him how to play the pedal steel guitar?
Well, he started off doing it as a side project with the New Riders of the Purple Sage.
Well, the story that I heard is that Jerry was having trouble with the band's vocalizations. They weren't harmonizing well. So he asked Crosby, Stills, and Nash to help, because Crosby, Stills, and Nash, if you know them well, they harmonize really good. While they were hanging out, Crosby, Stills, and Nash have a pedal steel guitar, and David Crosby was like, "What's that?" So they showed him how to use it while they were teaching his band and him how to sing and harmonize.
Teach your children. I think Jerry plays the opening pedal steel on that song.
That is correct.
Yeah. Then that I wasn't sure when that the Crosby, Stills, and Nash CD came out, but Jerry was
mid-60s.
Playing learning how to use it. He did the New Riders and
Actually, I think I might have that story backwards. I think the other way around it was that David Crosby showed them how to play, how to harmonize, and Garcia showed David Crosby how to play pedal steel.
Okay, yeah.
I think I got it wrong, and it happens to me.
No.
But yeah,
it's all about the same time period. Then Jerry did the one CD with the New Riders. Then Dead was doing more touring, and he gave the job to Buddy. And then when they did the Dead did touring with Dylan in the late 80s, Jerry brought Buddy back to help fine-tune his playing. But that's hopefully that kind of answered Kristi's question. That's but that's you got really but that interview was 15 years ago on UPRN.
Well, one thing I wanted to bring up and I forgot to is rest in peace Val Kilmer.
Yeah,
I know.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah,
he passed away a couple days ago.
Oh,
I thought it was an April Fool's at first, but
he was in the new movie. I remember he was sick, but he was in the new one.
They AI'd it. He couldn't talk. They AI'd his voice.
Oh, really?
He mouthed it, but he did not speak. He couldn't speak. He had the throat cancer had taken away his voice, so that was all AI'd.
There was a quick vocal in the Willow movie that was AI'd for him as well, but they didn't. He wasn't shown. They didn't use his face or image.
That show was a rough watch.
It was okay, yeah.
It wasn't
kind of glad it got canceled though.
For some reason, when they do shows and they put like let's say it's a show that's like a time period piece, and then they throw in like modern music or something, it just drives me nuts.
But in modern homosexuality too. But
what?
It's a kids TV show. You don't make.
I like the movie better, but
the movie's much better.
The movie's better. But rest in peace, Val Kilmer. The Doors. He had to go to rehab after that one. That's what I heard, to snap out of it situation. But many iconic roles. Sad loss.
Okay.
65.
Okay, so
Jeffrey, your show's off the rails, Jeffrey.
I know. I can't control anything.
But that's a normal. That's a normal.
Jay just enraged the whole LGBTQ crowd at us in 10 seconds.
Well,
and
just
don't do it. Just don't. Don't do it. Just don't even say anything else about it. But no, I understand what you mean. But free love, baby. But anyway, and as far as I know there's an interesting thing that Kiwani Leporitis, who wrote Sasquatch People, said some interesting things about Bigfoot. And this guy's been doing this for a long time, like 50 years or something. And he's kind of like the Whitley Strieber of Bigfoot. If you've never heard of him, look him up. Kiwani with a K, Leporitis. And he's got a book called Sasquatch People. But basically he's saying there's different kinds of Bigfoot. There's some that are kind of ape-like and whatever, maybe more caveman-like. I also think Bigfoot may be the ghost of cavemen running around, like spectral apparitions. There's many different levels to this Bigfoot thing. But the big thing is he said that there's the ape-like ones, but there's also a race that he calls the ancient ones that are more human-like. And sometimes I wonder, are these the super civilization, the people from Atlantis? I don't know. from Land of the Lost, but there's a lot of weird
I don't
Bigfoot
know,
stuff.
because the people from Atlantis were, in Plato's, treatises, they weren't depicted as hairy beings, nor were they described as
There are
such.
some paintings of old Bible depictions of hairy people, like Virgin Mary's all hairy and weird stuff, like medieval paintings. Like, why would you draw
the Green
people with
Man of England? Is the furry faced green man it's underneath every pew in a church in England.
Well, that guy that's coming on about tribes of Bigfoot, is he trying to tie that into like the tribes of Judah? I don't know. But the book's called The Tribes of Bigfoot. So, but anywho, so what about the paranormal subjects? Is that something y'all get into? I mean, if y'all had your own encounters, any encounters, paranormal encounters? Basically,
I just had one like 3 days ago.
Can you tell us it?
You did.
Yeah. So Jared and I had been working, and we got off work and we were getting dinner ready and set up Lord of the Rings. And we were going to watch Lord of the Rings and work. And I don't remember where you went, but he went away somewhere. And I
went to grab food.
You went to grab food. And so I'm sitting there with the movie on mute, and it's across the room. The screen, we travel with an HDMI cable, and we'll plug the HDMI cable into like a TV or something and watch movies or documentaries because we're nerds. But
that's true.
So we're watching Lord of the Rings, which also I don't know what that says about us, but we're watching Lord of the Rings, and it's paused while Jared goes to get the food. And when he comes, while he's gone, the mouse, which was across the room, starts moving, and I have it on video. So
She recorded it.
I recorded it. Yeah. So it's moving. The mouse is moving, and the mouse goes up to, when you have the movie paused and you can hit on the line where it's paused, and you can kind of zoom ahead or preview it or whatever, like drag the line back and forth to move to different sections of the movie. That's what it was doing. It was moving up, and then it would scroll. It moved up to the line, and then it scrolled down the line like it was looking for a certain section of the movie. It was weird. It was super weird, and it definitely felt a little paranormal.
So what were you watching, like on a Roku or Fire Stick?
It was on Amazon Prime on my computer, but it was plugged into the big screen.
Right. Okay.
So it was plugged into a bigger screen with an HDMI cable, and the mouse was across the room sitting on the desk in front of the computer.
Wow.
And I was
So you're
watching like the
watching
mouse lights up on the bottom. Like there's a light right here that lights up when it moves.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see the light on the desk lighting up like the mouse was moving, and it was just, but I mean, we were halfway through the movie at that point and it hadn't moved. And then all of a sudden it starts moving on its own to like a certain part of the movie. I don't know. It was pretty cool.
What time was it?
Weird. I've had something similar. I use a Roku, stick on my TV upstairs, and I was, it was late, and I was the only one up. Nobody else was awake in the house. There's 3 of us that live here, and it changed channels. And I moved around. I was like, I'm not sitting on the remote. The dog's not sitting on the remote. Looking around, so I'd pick up the remote and I'd flick it back to what I was watching, and then it went back to the main menu page. And I'm like, what the hell? Who's changing my Roku?
What's happening? Yeah,
it was all by itself. It was freaking me out.
Were you watching Rings of Power or Peter Jackson or Ralph Bakshi cartoon Lord of the Rings?
What I was watching.
I'm talking about y'all. What were y'all watching? Which Lord of the Rings?
The Return of the King.
Yep.
Okay, so Peter Jackson.
Could there have been some kind of anniversary that would have have had some kind of correlation with this paranormal event? Is there...
what's interesting, by the way, that Kristi hasn't pointed out is that where we paused the movie, just so you know, before I answer that, Mark, is that this is really important. She paused the movie. Where we paused the movie, it was like she said halfway through. When I went to go get food, the part of the movie that whatever was controlling the mouse was picking, it was way far ahead of where we had paused it. So it wasn't like she had just paused it and moved the mouse. It might focus in if you keep it close. It might do it, but it was moving the mouse over a scene of the movie that we had not gotten to, that was at least an hour and 10 minutes ahead of where we paused it. And it was very specific. It was, and for all those of you who have seen Lord of the Rings, it was the part where Frodo had was about to go into the mountain, but prior to going into the mountain to drop the ring in the fire in the volcano. But it was a very specific point, and I thought it was interesting that whoever or whatever was controlling the mic had moved the mouse over that section of the film. And it's like, why that section of the film? I don't know if it's going into focus or not. Yeah, you can kind of no, it's not quite going into focus.
Do you have the video in your computer? Because we can present it on the screen here if you want.
She has it on her phone.
I could send it to myself, but can you
email it to yourself, and then we can
I talk a little bit to this ghost, and I'd rather not everybody hear what I'm saying.
Well, it may be saying we're going to have to do some Lord of the Rings shit to handle this Trumpagooch situation, or we're all going to die. That may be it. But prophetic.
Do they know what time it happened about?
Well, do you know the time? Christina is here with me. She's asking, do y'all know what time it happened? You may have not known.
The recording started at 8:29.
Yeah, in the evening.
So yeah, it was 8:29.
So does I know this is kind of cliche to ask, but does Skinwalker Ranch ever come up on your show? Because I keep up with it all, and of course I try to use some discernment with it, but the shows in themselves are the craziest shows I've ever seen on TV when it comes to government spooks on the show. Like, it's just, there's so many government spooks on that show. You're like, what are they up to with this show? Are they going to bring out a real alien on there in a minute? Like, there's so many spooks on that show that it's just, that's more creepy than the Paranormal Activity. Like, there's Bigelow personnel, there's Colonel John Alexander. Then they hooked the one dude up, Chris Bledsoe, to the X-Men gear and had Colonel John Alexander and 2 CIA spooks and summoning UFOs. Like, it's getting really crazy. But go ahead.
No, what I was going to say, though, is that there's two sides of it. One, there's dead people everywhere, right? So Skinwalker Ranch isn't unique to the quantum, the collective consciousness, and the idea of, like, we're living on the remains of tens of millions of years of human history. So there's collective consciousness, there's DNA memory, there's, in quotes, downloads that people get that may or may not be past lives. But then you have Skinwalker Ranch, and you have these shows where you got, like you said, these spooks coming on, and you got people participating in a public way. How much of it is staged, or how much of it has to do with misdirection, or does it have to do with anything that we really want to know about? Or is it just a distraction? I mean, I don't know. There's a little bit of everything where it's like we can go get down the conspiratorial, rabbit hole, blue pill, red pill. We could just go down the hole forever.
Mm-hmm. And that's sort of kind of the problem with this with almost all the paranormal subjects. Some of it is legit, serious people trying to find out the answers. And there's a show, I haven't watched it, but I think it seems like you said, engineered, manufactured drama or whatever, UFO Cowboys. And, they make it seem like in the commercials, like one of them gets grabbed by an alien, like snatched right off the TV, right in front of the cameraman. And it's like, that's what puts, the bad light on all of the legitimate research. It makes it look like everybody's an idiot, even though, there are legitimate, Stanton T. Friedman was a legitimate physicist researching this subject. He's passed now. But people make fun of him because he talks about aliens.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Quartermass in the Pit? I saw that recently, one of the older ones. And it's, I think, was it a Hammer horror film? Or I know it's like but anyway, they're digging up aliens. It's an old movie. There was like a series and all kinds of stuff. It may have been a Hammer horror film, but Quartermass in the Pit, it was very creepily, it's like a movie from the 60s, that it was very creepily to what they're doing at Skinwalker Ranch. So there's like this, if you've ever seen it, try to see it, but just a weird old movie that's very strange, but it may be a Hammer horror film, you know, all those old Peter Cushing and all those, but
Those
but
are
there's
some of the
definitely-
best.
yeah, those are the best. I have a lot of them, and I love them. They're good.
Anything with Christopher Lee.
Peter Cushing.
Yeah, Peter
Yeah.
Cushing, Christopher Lee.
It's the good
Jeffrey,
stuff.
I sent that video to you.
Okay, I'll check it out. And what is y'all's dang, this dog is driving me crazy. Boston Terrier, he will not stop trying to hump everything in the house. And I'm not going to go into the different animals, but it's like I got to get him fixed, I guess. But he's just driving me insane.
Is that the Cujo kind of dog?
It's a little Boston. Come here, Edgar. Come here.
Edgar. That just reminds me of Men in Black. Edgar, your skin is hanging off your bones.
Someone
Yeah.
threw this
Yeah.
dog. Someone threw
better.
this. Someone threw this perfectly cute
There he
dog
is.
out at a park and abandoned
cute.
him.
Oh.
And he has a bag of molded food there. And the policeman said we could take him home as long as we love him. But we're starting to learn he's a great dog, except for one thing. And we're starting to
Snort.
learn why someone may have threw him out at the park.
What? Why?
He tries to have love affairs with cats, pigs,
Oh,
dogs.
that's a difficult.
Everything.
So he's very horny.
He's like Pan's little denizen that will
Poor
not
guy.
stop. And I don't want to cut his junk off, but gosh, like I don't want to, but it's sad. I don't want to do it. I'm trying not to, but he just won't stop. Gets to where it's just crazy. Like, do you just take a break for a day? I started calling him Ron Jeremy.
Oh God.
Well, you need to pick a new name because Ron's in jail now, so you need to pick a new.
I
You gotta pick
know.
a new one.
Is he even still alive? That old fool. Oh my God.
He's barely alive, Jay.
Yeah.
Jay, he's barely alive. The poor guy looks like he's about 1,000 years old, and he's already dust.
Well, he looked
That's
like
about-
hell when he was in the business too. I mean, Jesus,
Yeah.
he's not the best looking dude.
No, never was.
I saw
what
him
is
in
he? The
Edward Furlong. It was kind of like a horror movie. Just the picture was a horror movie. It's him and Edward Furlong hanging out. But anywho, I'm trying not to call him that. Edgar. And gosh, we got about 40 minutes or so. So what's going on as far as what's the soil? We're supposed to talk about that in Mayan pyramids.
Yeah. We should kind of get away from the Dirk Diggler stuff and back to the book.
So in the book, one of the things I quote about, and Jay, this is what we're talking about, ancient megalithic societies, where ancient advanced societies, megalithic is that they weren't just moving big stones. It's Terra Preta. It's still all blurry, Mark, but I like throwing it up anyway. I like the book is like the Bible.
But Kristi's phone comes in clearly, so that
You have a fuzz background on you. If you don't hold the book directly in front of you, it fuzzes out because it takes background.
Okay, well, let's fix that.
Let's see if it comes up. But yeah, so Terra Preta is an engineered soil made by man, and it's all over the earth. So there's an area in Brazil. So I'm busy researching for my book. It's not aliens, worse it's us. And this soil, this archaeologist stops on the side of the Amazon River. They're looking for the ancient. They're looking for. Oh, he almost did it. It worked. All right.
How about that? Yeah, Liz.
Yeah.
On the fly tech skills.
So for those that speak Portuguese, it's Portuguese for black earth or dark earth. And what it is, though, is in the world of bioengineering, there is a idea that it's if you're going to create a biochar, you take different plants and trees and you burn it up and you create a different chemical mix that is good for growing, say, a winery or for orchards or for different kinds of plants. And we learned this technology from studying Terra Preta, which is all over Brazil. And they think an area twice the size of Spain just in Brazil. But this identical self-replicating soil, it self-replicates, it filters heavy metals, it filters carbon dioxide.
What?
It's in Africa. It's in North Africa, it's in South Africa, it's in Australia, it's in Siberia. It also sends and receives it. It has the ability to be piezoelectric, so it can send and receive signals. So it's self-replicating.
Transmit electricity.
I think the
Exactly.
the second season of Ancient Apocalypse talked about it a lot too. I don't know if you saw that, but I think they got into that.
No,
in South
but
America.
that came.
And there must be some of
came-
that up in New Jersey where Tesla had his coil set up.
So the idea then is that when we talk about being barefoot and we exchange energy with the ground over tens of thousands of years ago, there's clearly an advanced society that's not only just exchanging electrons, but I think they're consciously doing it, not just biohacking, but I think they're bio-designing an environment that where we mistake it as, in quotes, being natural. I think this was a system where not only did this soil connect for sending and receiving electronic signals to each other, but also to buildings, and that these engineered soils, and we think of them, and by the way, Terra Preta is the richest growing soil on earth, but that system is not just about growing food. I think it was all the communications and networking between buildings and structures themselves, along with biosystems. Like fungus.
They had to, some of these buildings had to have had electricity. Dendera, Egypt, for example, there's no scorch marks. Most of the pyramids, the insides of them have very little scorch marks. The scorch marks that are there came from the explorers who found them. But other than that, there's no other ancient scorch marks like where you would expect people to have to, in these dark buildings, have a torch or a flame or an oil lamp, which would leave residues. And there's none of that in some of these buildings. So how are they lit? It had to have used electricity.
Well, and there's the idea is the way we think of turning on a switch or using electricity as in reference to power would be different in a society that when we created a paint a decade ago that could act as a light. So instead of you turning on a light in a hallway, in a room, you could actually, the paint on your wall behind you, Jay, would actually be emanating light, and you could dim it or you could leave it on. So you wouldn't experience electricity the way that we do now, where it would maybe be in a high voltage or a high dose. It would be something that may be just a current that supplies a wave and frequency system that's way more hyper-tuned.
It's interesting you say that about the wall glowing, becoming light. We were talking about some alien technologies, and the Gray ships are a bioengineered being. It's a creature. It's a living creature with its own intelligence.
There you go.
It's an AI. It's a living creature that they control telepathically. But the way the rooms work is they kind of work like the room on the Next Generation, that you go into the room and it's got the yellow grid, and you say, I want to be in 1950s New York. It's a holographic room. I forget what they call holodeck. The holodeck.
The holodeck.
Well, the rooms on these spaceships for the Greys, these living spaceships, are like these holodeck rooms. The Gray goes into it and thinks, I would like to lay down, and a bed forms. Or I'd like it to be lit in this room, and the wall will light up so he can see to do what he's work or write or whatever they do in the room. So that's interesting. You say that about this type of Earth could do that. There had to have been a power grid. They think the pyramids in Giza were part of that power grid, creating. I forget what's created from it, but they take two chemicals. Chris Dunn does a demonstration in Ancient Aliens with it, and these same chemicals that he pours together creates a helium or hydrogen. I think it's hydrogen. And they found the traces of both of the chemicals he used for this demonstration in the Khufu pyramid, the big pyramid.
Yeah, and here's the thing. This is our understanding of like, hey, we know what to do with hydrogen. We know what to do with these things. What we don't know, and I mentioned it earlier, and no one's talking about it, is nano spintronics. So spintronics, for anyone listening, is the study of taking a single, by the way, a theoretical particle, the electron, and the electron spins. And when the electron spins in different directions and everything else, you get quantum computing. But the study of spintronics and creating materials and machines out of small out of just hydrogen atoms or something. What we're not seeing with the Great Pyramids or the obelisks, the frequency and energy technology that we're talking about, we're thinking of it as an vibrations, and we're thinking of it of brain entrainment. We're thinking of it of consciousness. What we're not thinking of is the idea that, holy shit, if they're using spintronics and nanotechnology, and they're literally creating machines out of a few atoms, the technology that would be involved, because we have, by the way, I'm saying this because these pyramids and these systems clearly involve an understanding of technology that would require the subatomic particle technology understanding. So the reasons these machines would operate or function collectively for a society are way outside of something as primitive of they make hydrogen, or they inflate balloons, and they have free energy, and they can talk to each other. I think that we're really missing, we've been slowly kind of understanding a little more, and it's coming in the vernacular. You have Gaia television, and in a lot of places, and Ancient Aliens, and they're bringing up some of the subjects here and there, but so much of it floats around aliens or a technology we understand. I think it's important that we acknowledge, it could be hydrogen or something, but I think it's really important that we look to these cutting edge sciences that we think are cutting edge, but there's no way they weren't already implemented already. And we're not looking at these retrospectively and thinking, well, hydrogen makes sense, but what's the nano or spintronic technology side of this? What's the consciousness? Like, how would we have integrated with these machines and the soils, and how would that then look as we discern what the machine is? But we still think in primitive terms of, it creates free energy, and we got cheap television or Wi-Fi, or
Right.
it's like we have a real lowbrow understanding of what it could be. I think.
The thing is that the system is broken.
Yeah.
I have to use this as a demonstration. This is a 20-sided dice, but most of the planets in the solar system rotate counterclockwise, right? And that most of them stand pretty much straight up. Like this isn't a sphere or an ellipsoid like the planets are, but they are all standing straight up like this. Planet Earth, however, something hit it eons ago. Something hit planet Earth, and it's now skewed. So it's tilted like this, and it's still spinning. It's still spinning, and it's still going around the Earth, but it's knocked over. So what some people speculate is that where the pyramids were before the planet was hit, they were over top of these energy grids that naturally flow through the planet. And then after it was hit, planet was like this, now it's like that.
Yeah.
They're off that grid. So they, even if we were to fill them with the proper chemicals, I don't know how many eons ago, but the Nile River went right in front of Khufu's pyramid. I mean, direct. I mean, like, you could step out of the pyramid and dive right in and take a bath. That's how close. So that had to have been part of the power system, because you need water and a couple other chemicals to make that hydrogen.
Right. Well, and what about the news stories about them finding stuff 4,000 feet below it? So what is that? Is that water storage, or is that?
But are those new? Are we talking about the structures under the pyramids? That's not really new.
This is under the Khafre pyramid, the second big pyramid.
But I don't think that
several things that go several kilometers into the Earth. It's not quite verified yet, and several rooms.
But that's not new information, though, Jay. That's not new. I think but it's not. Like, I think that these discoveries were made by the people in Egypt way before it's been like common. Now it's known. Now it's known.
Wasp probably knew.
Yeah. I don't think it's new information. And so it's kind of curious to me. You have to ask yourself, people knew that there were structures under the pyramids for a really long time before it's released to the public. But now it's like a big deal being released to the public, but it's not new information. Like, people in Egypt know that this exists under the pyramids. Right. So people know that.
There's one thing we don't know that I've been curious about. Now, they've always talked about that the Egyptians, the fourth dynasty of Egypt, built these pyramids. It's impossible. And I can explain why later. But They talk about cover stones. That's all that is talked about in the pyramid texts and anything related to the pyramid. And there's nothing else, just cover stones. Well, what are they covering? So they found something. They didn't know what it was, and they built the pyramid on top of it. So whatever is underneath there, the stuff that's built in the red granite, was built by one of the older civilizations of Earth. It was not built by the Egyptians. They couldn't even do it. There's no way. They were a Bronze Age coming into the Copper Age, or Copper Bronze. I forget which one is more heavier and stronger than the other. I think bronze is better than copper. So they're Copper Age coming to Bronze Age. That's what they controlled, is bronze. Bronze is a 4 or 5 hardness metal. Limestone is a 3 or 4 hardness stone. You can cut limestone with brass. You cannot cut limestone. You cannot cut red granite, which is underneath the limestone, with brass. All it would be, it'd be like chalk on a chalkboard. You scrape the brass right off onto the red granite. So they didn't have the tools to make the main part of the inside, the Queen's Chamber, the King's Chamber, the main working part of the pyramid. They couldn't do it. Didn't have the technology, didn't have the right math. Their math was 25 number based, not 0 based. You have to have 0. They didn't have the compass. If you're going to align a building 0 or 0.025 off north, south, east, and west, you need a compass. Didn't have that. And if you're going to lift really big granite stones, you need the wheel. They didn't have the wheel either. So the Egyptians did not build anything but something to cover up whatever's underneath that limestone.
Yeah, well, it looks like they rebuilt, or they repaired, they mimicked, they saw things and they picked things up and they repaired things.
Possibly, yes.
And let's not forget that Dr. Joseph Davidovitz, the father of geopolymers. So if you guys all out there walk on concrete or have tiled a house or anything you've used with some sort of a mastic, the technology for geopolymers was fathered by Dr. Joseph Davidovitz, and he and his research institute about ancient advanced humans, which nobody talks about. But this guy, I mean, he's won every award, whatever. He's from France. But Dr. Joseph Davidovitz studied the Great Pyramid. They have confirmed, just like at Lake Titicaca at Tiwanaku, they have confirmed that those stones, many of them that are on the Great Pyramid in that area, the megalithic stuff, is a poured geopolymer. This is proven. It's not a theory. It's proven. So someone has to have the actual technology to make that kind of a geopolymer. But it's not just that they poured a stone, it's the complexity of what they poured. And then how did it relate to the cover stones? And how did it relate to any other surface nanomaterial that would have been on those? And how much would it relate to the machine that the pyramids once were? We don't have any of that information. So, but we do know that it's not just a bunch of cut stones, it's geopolymers. We know this, so we just ignore it on some of our conversations, and we don't end up having a full, broad, global. We don't have we get so dialed in on some of these conversations, which why can't we? Why wouldn't we? Right? But I think it's important that we keep looking at this globally until we can stop and go, there is something that we need to awaken in our collective memory in the ether about not just our past, but our present and therefore our future. I think it's important that we're aware of this collectively.
And I'm glad you brought that up. I had that argument with the Strongs of Australia. I forget his brother's name, but Michael Strong and his brother, they have the out of Australia theory for the Garden of Eden. Evan, thank you. And they have they found some great Egyptian stuff down there. Fantastic researchers, but we had arguments over vitrification processes on stone and poured stone versus heated up and melted molded stone, which is their theory on how Ollanta Tantambo is built. They think that the stone was taken in a large boulder, and then they heated it up to almost where it's molten and then pressed it into place. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. That has to be poured. It was an art form. They poured stone and made this, abstract cubistic wall in Peru, and it was poured in. And they're like, no, it was hot and heated and melted up. I'm like, how do you move molten piece of rock. So
Well,
it's
so the Russians
ongoing argument, but I agree with you. I think they were poured.
Well, the Russians proved it at Ollantaytambo and Sacsayhuaman. They were hired. We're talking geologists and petrologists that this is their expertise. They're the quantum scientists of rocks, and they proved that they literally. There's a 22-minute Russian interview where the Russians are with the Peruvians. They're having a meeting disclosing which the Peruvians hired, and they say, "Listen, our report shows that Sacsayhuaman, Ollantaytambo, these are poor geopolymers." And then you can watch in this 20-something minute YouTube video where one of the Peruvians stands up and says, no, these are natural stones. You're wrong. It's like, but they did the science. It's not their opinion. It's just the science. They did the work, and you hired them to do the work. And because it's in Russian, we as Americans or Westerners, we don't discuss it. But if you're into this subject, you'll find that it's a geopolymer. You'll know that the Great Pyramid, much of the original blockings are geopolymers. But do we understand the complexity of those geopolymers? No, we don't. But we don't.
I wasn't aware that they had found geopolymerisms at the pyramids. I'm glad to hear that. That just helps prove my theory a little bit better.
Yeah, you're right.
The Egyptians did not have the proper technologies to do anything but mimic with limestone, the only really material that they could even hewn to almost precision. Chris Dunn, I'll go back to him. Chris Dunn took some precision instruments, triangles and squares and protractors and things that not an archaeologist, things that an engineer and or a architect would need to build a building. Well, he found out in the granite parts of inside the Great Pyramid that it was built to within 6 inches of true square. Current building technology, even today, 2025, here in America, is any building, a high rise, an office, a mall, a church, school, your home, all are built to within 12 inches of true square. Now, I beg you take a triangle, 30, 60, 90 triangle, or is it 60, 60? You get them at the hardware store, and go to every angle in your house and measure how off it is, and take all those measurements. And by the time you're done on every angle on your wall, you'll find 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 sides of your house are dead on. Other sides will be just a little bit off. You take caliper measurements of all that offness, and you'll be under a foot. Okay. Yeah. Why would someone who has they don't even have the wheel, they're barely able to eke out a living in this desert, why would they build a 480 foot tall building? For what reason?
No, they came across it, and the arguments that the Egyptians built it is ludicrous. That they repaired it.
Done it, yeah.
They repaired it.
I agree with you. I think they covered it up. They were like, well, we don't know what it is. Cover it up. We'll say it's ours.
I got a question in your. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, Jeffrey.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say you can go after this and then maybe answer the question. But I've seen stuff about civilizations possibly burying themselves to avoid some kind of calamity, and I forget the dude's name, but I know there's a whole book about it by a pretty popular author with that kind of stuff. Has there been anything you've come across in your studies or experiences with that?
2 sites in Turkey were deliberately
buried.
like
Göbekli Tepe. I mean, but they're so. When I wrote my book, I noted 6 tepes. So Klaus Schmidt, the German archaeologist that died a few years ago, his wife is still alive. There's some work that was paused at Göbekli Tepe because they've only dug up 5% of a site that clearly shows megalithic columns that are showing carvings that you can mimic and see on Easter Island. They're in the British Museum. I cite those myself, and I have photos of that of the moai that they took from Easter Island that has the identical carvings on it that are in
the way they're holding the handbag. Even the markings on the back and the front, they're identical.
Yeah, and so
what does the guy say in My Cousin Vinny? Identical.
Yeah, that and honestly, if there's more so there's 6 tepes that they know of, but they cover vast acres. So these are vast complexes. They've only dug up 5%. And so here's the weird thing. Before my book came out, you could Google Göbekli Tepe and it would come up immediately. And they would say, this is, by the way, one of the reasons, Jeffrey, I do not like I like Graham Hancock, don't get me wrong. And I like the people in the show, but that Ancient Apocalypse, they mimicked and they've said something that has been repeated now in the last couple of years, which is, Göbekli Tepe is 12,000 years old. No. When this all came out, all you had to do was Google Göbekli Tepe, 10,000 years older than Stonehenge, 26,000 years old to 36,000 years old, carbon data. You go back to the Wayback Machine, you look anywhere. Do you know? And this is why I tell everyone to screenshot their shit, because it is whitewashed. It is gone. If you look up Göbekli Tepe, 12,000 years old. No, 26 to 36,000 years old with biological, biochar, carbon dated evidence that is at least 26 to 36,000 years old. And it went away.
They just announced that they found another site, and I think it's around the same area, that they're aging at 15 to 16,000, which I'm surprised they even said that much. But they're saying that. And the other thing that most people don't mention about Göbekli Tepe, and there's another tepe that they found. It's very near Göbekli. Both of them have higher than normal background radiation, indicating possibly some sort of cataclysm.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's a reason they're buried, and here's the thing. I think the pebble rock.
Buried, yeah.
Well, when you look at of the few things that they've uncovered at Göbekli, and there's Neroli Tepe, there's the, like I said, there's the 6 tepes that have been known about the last, like, that Klaus Schmidt has looked into for the last 60 years. But the thing is, there's rubble built like walls between the megalithic pillars. And to me, that shows signs that whoever was putting the rubble between the large megalithic blocks and the carvings, those are not the same people. So clearly Göbekli, like the other tepes, were probably utilized by more primitive cultures over periods of times, like the silicrete stones, the sile stones of Stonehenge. And Kristi and I were just talking about this when we were talking about before our Paul release last week on Wednesday. Last week, holy crap, it was just a few days ago. The sile stones, there was a core sample taken in the 50s that showed that the oldest ancient megalithic blocks of Stonehenge were silicrete, which is literally the exact words when you talk about 9 out of the 10 hardness scales. Silicrete is essentially indestructible.
Wow.
The weathering you see at Stonehenge on the silicrete, the amount of time and weathering it would take to make them be not as megalithic, not as precision as they are, would be tens of thousands of years. So the condition of whatever those silicretes were left in, those megalithic, to be turned into a Stonehenge, those are not the same builders. So whoever could work with silicretes, those aren't people who just knew how to cut stuff hard. They were doing that for a reason. And those megalithic blocks, like stone at Stonehenge and at the pyramids and at Sacsayhuaman and Ollantaytambo and at Lake Titicaca, those builders, there's magnetic forms to the stones and the geopolymers. There are geopolymers. The complexity of the geopolymers. Are they using spintronics? What is the material science behind it? And how does it relate to biotechnologies and these things that we think are paranormal, which is where Jeffrey started with, is do you think about paranormal? Do you think about second sight? Do you think about psychic experiences? There is no way that we did not have a biohacking, biointegrated, highly advanced human race that was just like the spaceships you were talking about, Jeffrey. There's no way it's not all a single global system, but now we're dealing with broken pieces of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like what you said, the planet is broken. We got hit by something blew through the inner planets, pulverized Planet 5, ripped the atmosphere and the water off of Mars, left a big gouge in it, killed whatever life, if there was any, on there. We're pretty sure there is. They said that they found irrefutable evidence so far. But that's just NASA. I still don't trust those people. Then whatever it is that destroyed those 2 planets bumped into Earth and knocked it over, and then went on its way. And that thing, some people, Velikovsky's theory is that it was the planet Venus. The planet Venus rotates in the opposite direction of all the other planets and all the other moons in this solar system. So it came from somewhere else. But I don't think it's big enough to destroy 2-3 planets. There's no way. Something destroyed the inner system of this planet, this solar system, and I want to know why and who.
Yeah, you know what? But let's zero in on this for a minute. Kristi, you did the whole ayahuasca thing. Did you ever get like any impression from any goddess or any download that when you were grounded or not grounded within that experience, did you sense anything about the planet and people that, like, what? Because I think a lot of our ancient the reason I'm asking this is because I haven't done it. Kristi has, and I feel like there is we have a subconscious memory of like our gene expression, our gene memory, but I don't know. Did anything jumpstart for you, Kristi, in the astral planing you did for a week and a half, 2 weeks?
Yeah, I didn't see any otherworldly beings. It was more of a feeling of connection. Like Jeff, earlier we were talking about when you get the chill bumps, when you think or experience, certain things like UFO phenomenon or paranormal or things like that. It was similar to that. It was just like a knowing that we're all connected and that we're all a part of something bigger. And it was irrefutable, in my mind, at the time it was irrefutable. Like there's nothing that can convince me that we're not all connected, that we're not part of the same source, of that we didn't all come from the same thing, and we all have the ability, and it doesn't take psychedelics to get there. You can do it through different modalities. When I was in Ecuador, I did a breathwork session, and it's the first time I'd ever done breathwork. I didn't really even know a whole lot about it, and it was profound. It was transforming for me, so much so that I went to Peru, to PSAC a month later, and learned how to teach breathwork. So I got certified to teach breathwork after that, a month after the psychedelic journeys, because it was just as profound and life-changing, and something that we can incorporate every day. And you can't just drink ayahuasca every day. You know what I mean? Yeah. You can't do that. But you can do breath work. And you can meditate, and you can do yoga, and you can do all of these other things, participate in these activities that do help elevate your consciousness. And breath work is one of the ways to do that. You can have psychedelic experiences just using your breath. And that's something that's innate in all of us. We all have it. We all have the ability to do it. We just don't do it. We don't know how. The way that we've been born into this experience. Other cultures and especially tribes, especially in South America, it's like they have everything figured out. Why don't we? We're so advanced up here. Why don't we have it figured out? But they're down there practicing these different modalities that do keep them grounded and connected to the planet, connected to oneness and the collective and source energy, cosmic energy, whatever we want to call it. They have it figured out. We don't.
Yeah, and I just saw this documentary on HBO Max that was really good, Legends of Shiva with Amish. Mm-hmm. And they went to India, a lot of archaeological stuff, and also a lot about their belief system. But beautiful place, God, it was like going there. I need to rewatch the third episode.
Really ornate architecture.
It was really good, but they go to a lot of the sacred places there and stuff, and there's shamans and stuff like that on there. But it was really good. There's 3 episodes, like an hour a piece. I got to rewatch the third one because the weed oil hit me on that third episode.
And you forgot. You forgot what you were doing and what you were watching.
I closed my eyes and with black. Oh, there you. So I normally never do that, but that oil will do it. That's for sure. But I'm going to rewatch the third one for sure. The third episode, it was really good, very colorful, bright. The colors there. Oh, and I didn't know that yellow stuff. Like they throw this yellow stuff here. It's turmeric. It's like they covered in these parades with turmeric. They're just throwing it everywhere, and it's just turmeric.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really good.
fascinating.
You would enjoy it. You both would probably enjoy it.
Yeah.
Really, really good. But that's HBO. There's another weird one on there. A cartoon by Mike Judge. The Beavis and Butthead guy. It's called Common Side Effects. And have you seen that with the mushrooms and stuff?
I don't know.
It's it's very it's about this mushroom. People take it and it can heal you from anything. And then pharmaceutical companies try to get it, and the guy's on the run. But there's a lot of people in it, and the Beavis and Butthead guy, but it's weird. It's called Common Side Effects.
Well, I mean, if you've ever seen Beavis and Butthead, Mike Judge is weird. I mean, he probably ate too much acid when he was in college.
The whole thing's about tripping. The whole show, that whole Common Side Effects, everyone's tripping. And there's like these little creatures that come out and stuff, like machine elves.
There's a lot to say about mushrooms, though. I mean, there's a huge fungal network that runs across the planet, and it does rebuild your neural network in your brain. So the broken neurons that we get, whether it's environmental or drinking too much or doing too many drugs or aging, whatever, it's degenerative. Mushrooms do help heal those neural networks. So you can do what?
I said it's essential for us, I think, and I don't know.
It is,
but
that's just another way that we are unplugged from all of the things that keep us plugged in. And we are all looking at mushrooms like there's some bad thing. Well, not all the mushrooms, just the fun ones. But when you microdose, which I do, and I make my own, when you microdose those things, it helps. And over time, you feel better. I, in 2022, wanted to get off of all the pharmaceuticals and just go all natural. And I'm not a sleeper. So I found indica, to help me sleep. And then, I ended up in Ecuador on San Pedro and ayahuasca. And I've had a couple of mushroom journeys and since, in the last year, and it's all helpful. All of it's helpful. And so I think that, I'm not encouraging people to go. It's not for everybody. Ayahuasca is not for everybody. But I do think that we might try to experience it to jog Jared's memory, because Jared he died 7 times and didn't see anything on the other side, probably because of all the drugs he was on. And so that's something that we're looking into, is maybe using psychedelics as a way to jog the memory, because whether or not he remembers seeing something, it doesn't mean that it didn't happen. Like it's like if we, it's just like if you smoke too much and you don't remember the night before, or you don't remember watching the 3rd episode of a really cool show, that doesn't mean that you didn't watch it. It just means that you don't remember watching it, And so I think that there's all kinds of things that can prevent us from remembering things. Like, I don't know, why can't we remember where we came from? Like, we're born into this experience with no memory of where we came from. That shit's weird to me. But he died and actually went to the other side and has no memory of it. And so there's theories around, why, and some of it is probably pharmaceuticals, but I think somebody tried to murder him.
That's a possibility. I mean,
I think he got murdered.
I was dead 7 times. Yeah.
Someone murdered you 7 times?
Well, I had a full-on cardiac arrest. I had a heart attack and a cardiac arrest. I had a full-on widowmaker, a year and a half ago on Memorial Day. So then I ended up in a coma. They had to double paddle me. I died 7 times. My heart kept stopping. So I kept dying. And so then I got started after the 7th time, and then they put me in a coma. And I was there 8 days in a coma. And then I walked out of ICU in 17 days, which no one does. And that was barely a year and a half ago. Wow. And so I was super dead a bunch. Here we
You
are.
know, I had a guy, Jerry Avalos, on that got attacked by a weird energy weapon in his house. And I don't try to get too kooky with that stuff, but I'm wondering if they're like all zapping the hell out of us right now from every direction.
I think that might be a thing. That could be a
There's
thing,
something to
though.
it. I don't try to get too kooky with that one, but there's
I'm-
something to it, I think, for
I think
sure.
Stephen Greer said something. No, it wasn't him. It was Bob Lazar, maybe, said something about that in one of his documentaries, or I don't, maybe it wasn't.
There's
I don't
a
know.
Jesse Ventura conspiracy theory episode about that where he like goes to where the signal's coming from or something. It's pretty weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's something to it. But yeah, I've had a lot of UFO stuff to where I've seen them over me as and with witnesses around me, from family to my mother to different people. And they've been right over me. And I don't know if they were there just because of for me or just in the neighborhood. And it seems like that. But I've moved to different houses and had them over the house. And there's been some really weird ones. And there are some people that want me to get hypnotized. And I'm hesitant as hell to get hypnotized. And just the thought of it gives me the creeps. But anyway, there's been some weird ones. Like one time I was walking a Siberian Husky in Florida down here, and this huge, weird, rusty orange ball just drifted over the road. And I was like, is there something carrying that? A helicopter, a crane? No, it was just a weird, huge, rusty orange ball that went over the road. And I was like, did they take me? If so, I don't remember a damn thing. They mind wiped me because I don't remember ever being taken or
Was it lit up?
They can't wipe the memory from you. What they can do is they mask it with other memories.
Maybe a screen memory. There's screen memories.
Was it lit up? Was the rusty ball like a light?
No, it was during the day. So, I mean, at night it might have been, but during the day it was just like you could just see the rust, like it came out of water or something, the ocean, maybe. We're near the ocean down here. So, I don't know, but I mean, maybe there's an explanation, but it was.
Maybe you're an alien, Jeff.
I've tripped out and thought I was afraid to leave the house during some of that stuff. And like, am I an alien?
Maybe you are, and that's why they're so attracted.
Seems like an alien too.
Rumor has it that most of us humans are alien to this planet.
But what if we're not, though? Just like Jared's theory, what if we're not actually aliens? What if all of the aliens that we think are aliens are actually?
It doesn't affect his theory whatsoever. One of the theories that we've been discussing on another show on this network is the fact that what if before the planets were destroyed, what if the fifth planet had life on it, Mars had life on it, Earth had life on it, something happened, 2 planets, and refugees from the fifth and fourth planet were deposited here with whatever was left of those humans from those primitive humans. Now, Jared's theory is that there's other races, other eras of man, and I agree. Something built all those pyramids. It wasn't an alien species. I mean, it's another civilization was living here. It wasn't just like aliens came by. Oh, look, gold! Let's go get some. No, it's the most whack theory I've ever heard in my life.
Hey, guys! I'm sorry. We have like 1 minute. Or maybe that's even gone now. But that was a great show. Thank you. I've been beat up all this month, so I appreciate you helping carry the show during my tragedies. And thank you. What's your website again for everybody?
RKEOX.com.
It's RKEOX.com. And just before we go, we have an upcoming tour to Belize. We leave May 30th, come back June 8th. We're going to see lots of ruin sites, cave tours. There'll be breath work, meditation, yoga, all the fun stuff. Lots of cool conversations. Probably have a lot to do with, our ancient past and a bunch of cool esoteric stuff. So if anybody's
join us,
go to the website. Yep. And sign up.
Yeah,
please.
Definitely enjoyed it. Thank you. And definitely love to get you on again sometime and keep us updated on things. And we appreciate it. Thanks for a great show. And yeah, with some of your experiences, Jared, there may be something blocked. I mean, a lot of my experiences, a lot of shamans think because I went through testicular cancer at 17 and lost one, which really sucked, and then had to go through chemo, and then my dad died several years later, that all that trauma opened me up to things.
Yeah.
So, and then some of these UFO things, there's like blocked memories. You know, you could have that with your stuff. I mean, I don't know, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't rule it out. One time I did DMT and actually saw strange writing on the wall, and I went up to it and felt it, and then it just kind of went away. But it was like a weird, like some kind of communication, but it was some weird, like I wouldn't say hieroglyphics, but weird kind of code, like on the wall. And I actually like went there after. I was like, is that going to still be there? No, it wasn't. It was like in another realm for sure. But we appreciate it so much. And everybody go to Kickstarter and check out Dr. Zomba's Ghostly Tales, a modern horror anthology in the tradition of EC Comics and the Twilight Zone. And it says everyone who buys this comic will die. So Dr. Zomba's Ghostly Tales. It's kind of like Tales from the Crypt or Creep Show. I love that stuff. Twilight Zone and stuff like that. But you can find it, Dr. DOCTOR Zomba Zomba Ghostly Tales, and apparently that's some kind of personality like Spenguli, the little dude with the hat, and Elvira and stuff. Like he's a doctor, like a real dude. But that guy may be coming on. That's running the Kickstarter. But anyway, we appreciate everybody. You're listening to United Public Radio 107.7 FM New Orleans. Have a good weekend. Thanks for listening, everybody. Good night.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.